In 2014, in search of a lifestyle that was closer to nature, we left our busy life in the southeast of England and moved to a remote part of Scotland. Here, our lives could be more in harmony with the flow of the seasons. This is our story.
Good morning, welcome to my channel. I'm John, and I live on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula on the west coast of Scotland. Where I'm sitting today, I'm looking out to the islands of Egg and Rum and Skye. You can see those behind me. It's a spectacular location, and the plan today is to make my way along to a remote cottage on this north coast. For those of you that visit this channel regularly, you'll know that I'm a druid. And for some reason, and I can't understand why, my friends often refer to me as Gandalf. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, as I am, you'll know that Gandalf actually had a horse that he was gifted by Eomer of the Rohirrim, and it was called Shadowfax. Now, the reason behind giving you that information is that I too have a means of conveyance with me. I have an electric bicycle that I will introduce you to shortly that I call Shadowfax. It's not white and silver and it doesn't gallop across the plains, but it does carry me to places that I find difficult to get to otherwise. So why am I riding along a very rough track on an electric powered bike? Well, I've led an extremely active life. I'm now 75 years old. And up until the age of 62, from my early 20s, I was heavily invested in rock climbing, mountaineering, hill walking. And essentially, I've got arthritis. So to get out into the hills now, I'm okay for 5 or 6 kilometres, but after that, it becomes a bit of a pain fest. So the idea of buying an electric bike was to give me more opportunity to explore this wonderful area where I live. So what made me choose the electric bike that I've chosen? Of course, there's literally hundreds out there, and I spent months looking at various models available. And some of them are really powerful, some of them are really fast, but they all have one thing in common: they're all very heavy. Now, at the age of 75, I'm active, but I'm not as strong as I was 20 years ago. And so I was looking for a bicycle that would be considerably lighter, but would also have sufficient power and range and ability for me to actually use in this terrain. So after much deliberation, I decided finally to buy a MiRider folding bicycle. The one that I chose was the one with the 20-inch wheels, because I needed the stability of the bigger wheels. And they also do that now with 3 gears, so you have 5 levels of power assist and 3 gears. So anyway, I actually bought this with my own money. In fairness to MiRider, they did give me a small discount when I said I was going to feature it on my channel, but essentially it is something I've purchased, and over the next few months there'll be various trips out, and I will give you a genuine review on what I think and what this bike is able to do. So this video is actually entitled My Ride to the Vikings. Now, you might find that quite an enigmatic title. The reason why is that this whole western seaboard of Scotland was actually under Viking control. It was a Viking fiefdom, if you want, from about 500 of the current era to certainly 800 of the current era. And about 4 miles from where I am, there's the only mainland Viking ship burial remains. It was found some years ago and excavated. It's not a big ship. It's, I think, about 14 feet long, or what, 4 meters, 4.5 meters long. But in it was the remains of a Viking warrior. And there's not much to see there now. They've just laid stones out on the grass. But it's a good sign of the Viking influence here. But the lingering Viking influence here is in the names. And this north coast, if you look at the map, you've got Faskerdale, you've got Swardle, or we call it Swardle, Swardale. You've got Ochel, which in the Gaelic is Ochdale, And where I'm heading for is somewhere called Eligadal. Now, when you have that dale ending to words, it generally means that word is of Viking origin. So their legacy lives on. So let me introduce you to my steed, my version of Gandalf's horse. This is Shadowfax, if you want to give it a name, but it's a 3-speed, 20-inch wheel folding bicycle. The battery is in the frame here. It's got hydraulic disc brakes, and one thing there's two things that are quite unique to it. One is the fact that it actually has a belt drive rather than a chain drive, and in the front crank there is a planetary gear system which gives me 3 speeds. I'd have had a chance to have actually tested it on what in actual fact is quite a tough track. It's very loose and stony, so it'd be interesting to see how it copes with that and how much assistance I get. It's also very steep in some places. So just stay with me on this video, and at the end of it you'll actually hear what I actually think of the bike on this first outing. Just look at this fantastic vista opening up. Just spectacular. So looking out to the northeast, you've got Rocheven and the hills around Rocheven, and then further inland I can't identify those. There's a very pointed one there that I suspect is on Noidart. And then we've got the peninsula running out towards Mallaig and Arisaig, and then beyond that we come across and we've got the whole of the red Coolins, Blaven, and then the black Coolins there. Here we've got Egg and the Skura of Egg, that vertical drop, and behind that you've got the mountains of Rum. It truly is a breathtaking scene, and I don't find it at all difficult to imagine the Vikings sweeping in across this land in their long ships and pulling into the bays and coves and hauling their ships out. And there's not a sound apart from birds. There's a cuckoo calling around. I hope the camera picks that up. So the track here is actually not too bad. It's actually quite firm. But just panning round, looking down there, there is Eligadal with the trees in the valley. You can see a very remote place. There's obviously well, there is a house down there, and they obviously don't want vehicles going down there, so they gate it. But we have rights of way access in Scotland, so I'm able to go down there. And this little track leading out beyond my bike actually leads round to somewhere called Gorchin and a place known as Singing Sands, or Camasanria. I think this is rather quaint. They're letting you know which way to go. But my way lies down that hill, and it's going to be a hard slog coming back up it. But nonetheless, I intend to go down and see. I've been meaning to come here for years, and at last I've managed to do it, courtesy of my little bike. So what a phenomenal place this is, and what a phenomenal day it is. And if you just look out gently towards the sea on the north, Look at that wonderful natural harbour you have there. So you can understand why this was actually settled. There would have been a settlement here of some kind. I don't know if it's ever been excavated, I suspect not. But they would have drawn their boats in, dragged them up onto the shingle away from the tide. They'd have probably shaped the shingle in a way that suited them more, rather than the natural formations you have here. Yeah, phenomenal place. And the thing is, where does this fit together with my druidry? Well, druidry, one aspect of druidry is about ancestors and acknowledging the wisdom that was accrued over the centuries and subsequently. And if we think back to 500 to 800 of the current era, that's sort of a bit of a mind-boggling sort of statement, you know, that 500, that's 1500 years ago. But in the evolution of humankind, it's not at all, because if you think that we estimate that each generation is 25 years, so 4 generations is 100 years. So 40 generations is 1,000 years. Just 40 generations. And if we look back another 500 years, that's 60 generations. So the Vikings were coming in here 60 generations ago. And when you think of that in terms of our evolutionary period, that's tiny. That's a tiny part of it. And yet we've moved from sort of the subsistence and the Iron Age to areas where we have, you know, this technology that I'm recording on and this tiny little Bluetooth microphone. And we haven't caught up. That's the trouble. Physiologically, we haven't caught up. And psychologically, we haven't caught up. So we're in a technological age, but we're still essentially in a Stone Age body, a body that evolved as a pre-hunter-gatherer. And we have all those instincts. You know, our fight and flight instinct is the same as people 5,000 years ago. And you think, well, 5,000 years ago, that's a long time. Yeah, it's 200 generations. That's all it is. You know, 40 generations to the 1,000 years. 200 generations. And we've got that disconnect. And it's my belief that a lot of the mental health issues and a lot of the concerns that all of us feel at times comes from that lack of connection. And as a druid, connection is everything. All my videos, every video I've put up out, I think I talk about connection to nature. And you know, and it's very easy for me. I sit here with that phenomenal view to the north. I've just had a swim in sea that is so clear that it's like looking through glass. I'm now sitting on a beach, no one's around. I've got no clothes on, I'm just drying in the sun. It's easy for me. It's easy for me. But for those of you that are viewing this, the majority of you will not be in my situation. And so I admire any efforts that you make to actually connect with the world around you. So I've just wandered around on the beach and I found these wonderful quartz pebbles. And that got me thinking, you know, they're the sort of thing that you see lying around and you just want to pick up. It's as simple as that. And that's a particular human trait, isn't it? Although there are some animals, birds particularly, I think, that do collect things like this. But it's a very human trait. And it got me thinking about the children that must have run around on this beach over the centuries. And the laughter and splashing in the sea and the work, the hauling up of the boats, the bringing in of the fish and the bounty of the ocean. And sitting here in the quiet after my swim, it's as though I could actually hear their voices. They're all around me, the ancestors. So I'm just leaving Eligadal and just come up off the beach and looking up into the hills, and look at that wonderful little valley, or glen as we would call it over here. So this is the type of terrain I'm on. This is sort of 1 in 4, 1 in 5. Just ahead of me is a really steep section. I'm not going to be able to ride that. So put it down to 0 and then use the walk assist to get me up that. I think I've done most of it now. I'm surprised how well this copes with this terrain and how much assistance I'm getting, because this is still pretty steep. So I'm back on the main track. Whew. I knew that would be hard work. So I said I would give you a bit of a review on the bike when I got back here. Well, I've done not a great distance. I've done about 4 miles. Having said that, the majority of the time I was in level 4 and 5, occasionally level 3. I hardly got out of the first gear. So that gives you an idea of what the terrain was like. It was pretty rough. It was not only steep, it was loose ground, and yeah, it was challenging. So how do I feel about the bike? Well, actually it did pretty well. Sort of did it without a lot of fuss. There were areas where it was just too, it wasn't so much the steepness that made me get off it, it was the It was the looseness of the surface. I just couldn't get traction on the back wheel. So that side of it. But yeah, am I pleased with it? Yes, I am. What I will do in future, I will go to places where I can get a bit more range testing. This, as I say, wasn't a fair place to test the range of this bike because it was so flipping rugged. But there we go. So I'll fold it up and you can see it go in the van. I'm going to put it into I'm going to stick it on the dog bed actually. Normally it goes under the bed in the back, and it goes in there quite easily. This is a Transporter T5, so to give you an idea of the space size of it. But here we go. So first of all, it's about folding down the handlebars, folding in the pedals, and they have to be moved round to that position. Fold up the kickstand, press the lever and unclip, so the whole thing's unclipped, and then it comes round and the magnet holds it together. I'm not going to take the saddle out because I don't need to, but if I put it in the back, I actually put the saddle. The place I find easy to pick it up is actually the suspension unit. And it's times like this that I'm really glad that I bought a bike that weighs 20 kilos instead of one that weighs 30 or 40, because that's the general weight of the fat tyre 20-inch wheeled e-bikes. They're generally around about the 30 kilos and upwards. So how do I feel about it? Yeah, very nice little bike, did the trick. The most important thing for me, as I said in the early part of this video, I've got arthritis in my knees, and the most important thing is how my knees feel now. And yes, I know they're there, but they're nowhere near as sore as they would have been if I'd have actually walked there and back. So what it's done, it's given me the ability to access places with more comfort than I otherwise had. So for me, that's a win. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed what I did, and if you did, maybe you might like to like and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to know more about Druidry and the way it interacts in my life, then check out this video here. In the meantime, goodbye.